up, everybody? Welcome into A Bettor Morning presented by Rival Fantasy. Rival Fantasy, your all-in-one fantasy sports platform. A little bit later on in the program, we'll do a little Rivals Fantasy Challenge, start to get ready and turn the page to week 2 of the NFL season. Obviously, a lot to get to unpack in a short amount of time here today on the Bettor Morning. We truly had one of the most memorable sporting events in recent memory take place last night at MetLife Stadium. And let's go to the videotape. No, but honestly speaking, the pageantry and everything that took place last night, the building was packed. 9/11 in New York City, the stars was out. And by the time we got 10 to 15 minutes into the game, I got a chance to settle in and get ready to get the game started. I'm ready to root on Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and my New York Jets cheers for my fantasy team. And then disaster strikes. Aaron Rodgers crumples to the ground. He gets up. As soon as Aaron Rodgers sat back down, I thought to myself, man, this can't be good. Aaron Rodgers taken off the field, he's walked off the field, and he goes to the medical tent. I was watching the Manning cast, and you immediately saw the reaction from Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, and you thought, okay, this could very well be trouble. And unfortunately, when that cart came out and we went for that cart ride, and then you saw what that calf did, I had thoughts of Kevin Durant. I had thoughts of Kobe Bryant and many other athletes who later in their career, even though not as late as Rodgers is, going on 40 years old, ruptured their Achilles tendon. Now, at that time, it was just speculation, you know what I'm saying? But Zach Wilson had to come into the game and take over and lead the ship. Now, it reminds me of, remember the Titans. You remember the Titans when Rev ran the veer and he broke his wrist, and Coach Boone said, Petey. Coach Boone called on Ronnie Bass on the sideline, and Ronnie Bass didn't want to go in that game, but Ronnie Bass had to be a leader in that time. And Zach Wilson, that's the job that you're going to be entrusted with right now. But we'll get back to Wilson in a little bit. The way the game ends up playing out, the life in that stadium was taken away when Aaron Rodgers went down, and rightfully so. Why wouldn't it be? What can you possibly expect after you saw what this team did? This New York Jet franchise, a silent stadium, a silent city. Not even just the New York Jet franchise, the NFL world went silent when Aaron Rodgers was taking that cart ride out of that stadium. A year and a team with so much optimism, from Aaron Rodgers going away to seeing if he did go into his room of darkness. He comes out and decides he's a New York Jet. Line up hard knocks. Let's go get talented team, great defense. Everything that the New York Jets were planning on, all the optimism, their division rivals who sit at the top of the division now in town, and all of a sudden it ends just like this. I thought about New York Jet fans in that moment, and I was like, wow, I feel bad for New York Jet fans, but I wonder if this is what it felt like to be an Atlanta Falcons fan, 28-3 and still lose a Super Bowl to Tom Brady. It's the only 2 times in my career of watching football that I have felt bad for another fan base. And that was the case last night because I wanted to enjoy Aaron Rodgers and I wanted to enjoy this New York Jet run. But you know what? It was not meant to be. Right around halftime, reports came out that the x-rays were negative, but still the walking boot was there. And listen, I'm not Dr. Jess Morse or any doctor, but I can tell pretty much when somebody who's almost 40 years old ruptures their Achilles tendon. So now we got a problem. We got a situation. The air is inflated out of the building. How are the New York Jets going to come back? Let's put a pin in it right there, and I'll tell you how the New York Jets were going to come back. But while this was going on last night, I immediately thought back to the year of 1999. The New York Jets were in a similar situation. They went in the offseason and acquired Vinny Testaverde, a Long Island guy, a hometown hero, to come be the savior of the New York Jet franchise. That year, the New York Jets had guys like Keyshawn Johnson, Wayne Corbett, and a stout defense. Much like this New York Jet team right now, there was Super Bowl aspirations. And on the first drive of the game, 24 years ago, almost to the date, Vinny Testaverde ruptures his Achilles tendon. Now, the Jets went on to lose that game, but let me tell you what happened that season. Because, see, that season, the New York Jets had a tremendous advantage. Roaming the sidelines in MetLife Stadium that year was Pro Football Hall of Famer Bill Parcells. And Bill Parcells was able to lead that New York Jet team to the brink of the playoffs. As a matter of fact, it was so close, the Jets should have made the playoffs that year. They went out there with guys like Rick Myra and Ray Lucas as their starting quarterback. And in the last game of the season, in the fourth quarter versus the Seahawks, Ray Lucas, did a quarterback sneak that was a touchdown. A touchdown was not called on the field. The Jets lose the game and did not make the playoffs, but the Jets should have made the playoffs that year. Bill Parcells, as a leader, stepped in that moment. He rallied the troops. That team went 7-2 down the stretch and should have been a playoff team. I could possibly be mistaken on this, but that could have been the game that led to the NFL instituting the replay booth. Now, Robert Saleh, you're going to have to do a Bill Parcells type job because you're the leader. It is your job to rally the troops, to get this team to play around whoever the quarterback is going to be and try to get this team to where they think they could be. This is still an elite defense. You still got Aaron Rodgers in the room. Now you got to coach up the quarterback and get him ready or whatever y'all going to do. Woody Johnson, love to see you sitting up there in the booth with your bling on, but now it's time to get to work. And then the second half starts. And when the second half starts, there did seem to be a different feeling in that building. It seemed like the New York Jets came out with a little bit of energy. But you know what? It wasn't really the New York Jets that brought the New York Jets back into this game. It was the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. And we need to start having a serious conversation about Josh Allen. Because if I'm McDermott, it might be time to put Josh Allen on the bench. Because much like his NFC counterpart in Dak Prescott, I know I shouldn't have brought Dak up in this situation, but this is a guy that loses the football game for his team. He has a talented team full of stars, and he turns the ball over at will all the time. 4 turnovers last night for Josh Allen. That is unacceptable. I would put his ass on the bench. It doesn't make any sense that the whole team goes out there and works that hard, and one player continues to lose the football game. Josh Allen, you are the weakest link. Stephon Diggs was right. You don't have no dog in you, Josh Allen, even though he didn't say that out loud, but that seems to be the rumor around the Buffalo Bills locker room. And you didn't see that from Josh Allen last night. Even in the post-game press conference, his voice was cracking. He was getting ready to cry. Don't cry, play better. Don't give the football to the other team. But what you allowed last night was for hope. And when hope took over that stadium, then we saw Xavier Gibson with a walk-off kick return touchdown to give the New York Jets the victory. Now, in that moment, there was celebration. In that moment, there was renewed optimism. It's probably not going to show at the sports book today because the Jets' Super Bowl odds are out the window. Nobody thinks this team can go that far now. So now the question is, well, what do the New York Jets do at quarterback? You know, in moments like this, social media is a fantastic place to be because everybody wants to get out there and clout chase and give their opinions and whatever have you in the case may be. The first name that popped up was Tom Brady. 45-year-old Tom Brady is not going to come play behind the New York Jet weak offensive line. Number one, it's the New York Jets. Number two, he's 45 years old. Number three, you think he wants to play behind that line? You can see that the Jets line was going to be problematic from the jump last night. That's not happening. Then there was the ones that say, well, the Cowboys, they should contact the Cowboys for Trey Lance. Are you effing serious? You think they want Trey Lance and they got Zach Wilson? Then you think they want 2 failed high draft pick quarterbacks? Use your head, people. No, they don't like going to trade for Trey Lance. Trey Lance can't play. They be in the same situation they in now. But this one right here was really the kicker. Somebody put on social media last night that the New York Jets should contact Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is 35 years old and hasn't played football in 7 years. And you think he can come and take this New York Jet team to the promised land? Deshaun Watson was out of football for a year and a half. He's not even 30 years old yet, and he looked like Trey Lance right now. So, yes, Russ is the thing. You can't do that. Should they trade for Russell Wilson? He stinks. But if the New York Jets do want to do something smart, and they do want to make a very good and a very strategic move, I got it for them, right? The New York Jets should consult with me on this one. Because in order for the New York Jets, in order for the Green Bay Packers to get a first-round draft pick in this Aaron Rodgers trade, Rodgers had to play at least 70% of the snaps this season. Later on today, Aaron Rodgers' season will likely come to an end. So he's not going to play 70% of the snaps. So that becomes a second-round draft pick, meaning the New York Jets get their first-round draft pick back. Interesting. Now, if the Jets get that draft pick back, who's a team that has an aging, overpaid quarterback that would love to use a first-round draft pick? The Detroit Lions? No, that's Jared Goff. But what about the guy that played for the Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford? I am certain that the Los Angeles Rams wanted to trade Matthew Stafford this offseason. But Matthew Stafford has that big contract, and nobody wanted to take that contract on. Well, guess who can take that contract on now? The New York Jets. And they also have a first-round draft pick that they can use in exchange to give the Rams, who need draft picks, to bring Stafford to New York and maybe try to fix this thing. But I'm going to go with my man Ronnie Bass. I'm going to go with Coach Boone. I understand that Rev went down. You know what I'm saying? I understand that Ronnie Bass can't throw that veer, but you're going to have to learn. Now, do I think that Zach Wilson can lead the New York Jets to the Virginia State Championship? I'm not so sure about that one, but you know what I'm trying to say. Listen, you got Rodgers in that quarterback room. It's going to be an inspiration. The team is going to be from behind him. Salah has came out and already said that Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback this season, and he needs the opportunity to show and prove. If you want to make that move, Matt Stafford is the guy, nobody else. Now, New York Jet fans, I know you feel bad today. You do kind of feel like this franchise, this organization is cursed, right? I was sitting over here. I'm down here in the woods in the country. One of my cousins came over and was like, I'm like, man, we both look at it like, man, the Jets is cursed. And he goes, they need to cut the neck off a goat, cut a goat neck and sprinkle the blood in the stadium. And I'm like, let's not go that far. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Kyrie Irving can walk around the facility burning some sage. Maybe that'll take the bad juju out. But I don't want to go killing goats and sprinkling blood over Jimmy Hoffa's grave. Now, New York Jets fan, everything is going to be all right. I still think the New York Jets are going to be a team that could contend to be team 7, 8, or 9 in the AFC. They're not going to be a top of the AFC team anymore. But guess what? Neither is the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills may have a bigger quarterback dilemma this morning than the New York Jets do. That's how terrible Josh Allen was last night. So that's my recap on what took place last night. Fantasy Executive just broke it down and fixed it for you. Now, your fantasy football teams may need some fixing like mine do, because I got Garrett Wilson, J.K. Dobbins, you name it. If they got hurt this week, they're on the Fantasy Executive roster. But we're not complaining about that. We got to hit the waiver wire and figure out a way to make it better. The players I like the most on the wire this week will be, I'm going to go with Kenneth Gainwell, Joshua Kelly, Gus Edwards at the running back position. At wide receiver, I'm going to go Puka Nacua, Josh Reynolds. You can throw Jacoby Myers in there as well. Dollar make you holler on Kendrick Bourne. I've been a big Kendrick Bourne fan for a couple years now. Now, most people would think he's not going to keep this up, and they very well may be correct. But I'm going to give Kendrick Bourne a shot. A dollar make you holler. Don't overpay for Kendrick Bourne. Quarterback is only one. It's Jordan Love. And I told you, I've been telling you all offseason that after week 1, you're going to go to the waiver wire to pick up Jordan Love. If you're in a league with me, he's not going to be there because he's already on my bench. And then, the wide receivers, Puka, Tutu is in there as well. And I would go Zay Jones. He's on the wide He is also on the waiver wire in a lot of places. Tight ends, if Sam Laporta is out there, like him, my top tight end will be Hayden Hurst, followed by Luke Musgrave, and that's how I am going to handle the waiver wire this weekend on my fantasy football leagues. Now, do got to get and talk about some Jordan Love, Heather. Do got to get and talk about some Rival Fantasy. Is that time of the week? Our naming sponsor, Rival Fantasy, the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. They already have their fantasy challenges NFL game up. So I'm going to go over there and head over to Rival Fantasy right now. You see, I just won that challenge that I played last week. You plan on winning this one that I play again. Let's click the screen up here. There you go. Let's click the screen up here and go to challenges. And then you get Nick Pavetta and Randy Vasquez. I don't even know who these dudes are. So I'm going to go to the NFL side, and it's going to spin. Christian McCaffrey versus Kirk Cousins. There's no chance in hell I'm going for Kirk Cousins up against that Philadelphia Eagles defense. He had a disastrous game versus the Eagles in prime time last year. It's probably going to happen again this year. We all know that we fade Kirk Cousins in prime time. So this is an easy play right here for my main man, Christian McCaffrey. Go ahead and hit CMC. You know what I'm saying? We could do, look at that. Let's be big spenders. $10 on that one. Set your pick, and then you go right there. Rival Fantasy. Get involved for yourself. Check it out. Rival Fantasy, the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Heather, you want me to do another one? All right, cool. Mike Williams and TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson in that same game. Mike Williams is hurt. You know what I'm saying? Again, flag football, Mike. Let's go ahead and skip that challenge. You know what I'm saying? Let's see who we got next. Devontae Smith versus Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon up against that defense. I'm going to go with Devontae Smith. There you go right there. All right, that's enough fantasy challenges. I do not want to blow through my fantasy challenge bankroll this early in the season. You know what I'm saying? Brandon McCoy. Brandon, here's the thing. You have to subscribe. I answer questions, fantasy questions for free, but you got to hit that subscribe button. Would you try to trade Montgomery and Kupp for a running back like ETN and a downgrade at wide receiver? Montgomery and Kupp for ETN and a downgrade at wide receiver. So really, this is Montgomery versus ETN straight up. I would do that, regardless of who the wide receiver is. I would do that because you're trading the player that's hurt, and you're selling the fact that, okay, well, Cooper Kupp's going to be back. Good luck with that. Listen, Cooper Kupp, when you go see a hamstring specialist, I never even knew they had hamstring specialists. So that may not be a thing right there. You know what I'm saying? So, no, I think the correct play right there is to you want to be on the side of the trade that is getting rid of the player that is hurt, and that's how I would take it, that one right there. All right, I want to thank everybody for hanging out, rock and rolling with us today right here on A Bettor Morning. Once again, the New York Jets situation is a sad situation. Definitely did want to see Aaron Rodgers in that New York. They was even wearing the throwback uniforms. Like they was like it's like the ghost of Vinny Testaverde, even though Vinny Testaverde is not a ghost. It's almost like the ghost of that situation was hanging over MetLife Stadium last night. Like, I never really believe in like franchise being cursed, but you got to feel bad for the New York Jet fan this morning as they try to make their way. But listen, I think there is still reason to be optimistic. I think the Jets can still compete. I think the Jets might be able to fight themselves into a playoff shot. That AFC East is tough, but they already have a division win over the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills need questions answered. A lot of the talk today is going to be centered around Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, but let's not forget that the Buffalo Bills have a quarterback situation that they need to deal with ASAP because it ain't going well. You already saw that this play from Josh Allen has affected the morale of this team. It's not going to get any better. And Allen said it himself last night as he was tearing up at the podium. It feels just like last season. Don't cry about it. Do better. All right. I want to wish everybody out there a good day. Wish you a better morning. Coming up next is Sportopia Fantasy and Ice, MLB, with Terrell Furman and Chris Torres. Shout out to those fellas. Hang out. get some MLB DFS advice. Other than that, though, I'll be back tomorrow. It's your boy Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, wishing you a better morning.